very detailed explanation of the Great Reset and the New World Order. What is this Great Reset we're now hearing about? In a nutshell, the Great Reset refers to a global agenda to monitor and control the world through digital surveillance. As explained by journalist James Corbett in his October 16, 2020. Corbett report above. 1. The Great Reset is a new, social contract that ties every person to it through an electronic ID linked to your bank account and health records, and a social credit ID that will end up dictating every facet of your life. It's about getting rid of capitalism and free enterprise, and replacing them with sustainable development and stakeholder capitalism, terms that belie their nefarious, anti-humanity intents. As noted in the book, Technocracy, The Hard Road to World Order 2. Sustainable development is technocracy. The sustainable development movement has taken careful steps to conceal its true identity, strategy and purpose, but once the veil is lifted, you will never see it any other way. Once its strategy is unmasked, everything else will start to make sense. The Grand Plan. In her blog post The Great Reset for Dummies, Tissalina summarizes the purpose behind the call for a global reset. 3. The mathematical reason for the Great Reset is that thanks to technology, the planet has gotten small, and the infinite expansion economic model is bust. But obviously, the super wealthy want to continue staying super wealthy, and so they need a miracle, another bubble plus a surgically precise system for managing what they perceive as their limited resources. Thus, they desperately want a bubble providing new growth out of thin air, literally, while simultaneously they seek to tighten the peasants' belts. An effort that starts with behavioral modification, aka resetting the Western peasant's sense of entitlement to high life standards and liberties, see awful privilege. The psychological reason for the Great Reset is the fear of losing control of property, the planet. I suppose, if you own billions and move trillions, your perception of reality gets funky, and everything down below looks like an anthill that exists for you. Just ants and numbers, your assets. Thus, the practical aim of the Great Reset is to fundamentally restructure the world's economy and geopolitical relations based on two assumptions. 1. That every element of nature and every life form is a part of the global inventory, managed by the allegedly benevolent state, which, in turn, is owned by several suddenly benevolent wealthy people, via technology. And 2. That all inventory needs to be strictly accounted for, be registered in a central database, be readable by a scanner and easily ID'd, and be managed by AI, using the latest science. The goal is to count and then efficiently manage and control all resources, including people, on an unprecedented scale, with unprecedented digital precision, all while the masters keep enjoying vast patches of conserved nature, free of unnecessary sovereign peasants and their unpredictability. Global asset reallocations will not benefit the people. These new global assets can also be turned into brand new financial instruments that can then be traded. An example of this was given by Vandana Shiva, PhD, in my interview with her. In it, she explained how India is headed toward zero-budget natural farming, a brand new concept of farming in which farmers must trade the carbon rate in their soil on the global market if they want to make a living. They'll get no money at all for the crops they actually grow. There's not a single area of life that is left out of this Great Reset plan. The planned reform will affect everything from government, energy and finance to food, medicine, real estate, policing, and even how we interact with our fellow human beings in general. Privacy protections, of course, are a major hurdle in this plan, which is why every effort is made to get people to loosen their views on the right for privacy. In the US, we also have the Constitution that stands in the way, which is why efforts to undermine, circumvent, ignore or nullify it are increasing. To sum it up, the desired end result is a giant, joyless, highly controlled global conveyor of everything and everybody where privacy is tremendously expensive, dissent is unthinkable, and spiritual submission is mandatory. It's like a 24/7 medicated reality, except the medications are both chemical and digital, and they are reporting you back to the mothership, which can then punish you for bad behavior by, say, blocking your access to certain places or by putting a hold on your digital bank account. perhaps without any human intervention at all. Lena writes. Point 4. Stakeholder capitalism. In October 5, 2020, Winter Oak Article 5 addressed the technocratic fascist vision of Professor Klaus Schwab, founder and executive chairman of the World Economic Forum, who wrote the book on the Fourth Industrial Revolution. Schwab announced the World Economic Forum's Great Reset initiative in June 2020, which includes stripping all people of their privately owned assets. In addition to being a staunch technocrat, Schwab also has a strong transhumanist bend. And he has spoken of a near future in which humans merge with machines and in which law enforcement will be able to read our mind. Point 6. Winter Oak, a British non-profit social justice organization, points out that Schwab and his globalist accomplices are using the COVID-19 pandemic to bypass democratic accountability, to override opposition, to accelerate their agenda, and to impose it on the rest of humankind against our will. This is no conspiracy theory. The plan is out in the open. As noted by Time magazine, 7, the COVID-19 pandemic has provided a unique opportunity to think about the kind of future we want. Ultimate proof: COVID-19 was planned to usher in the New World Order. The same statement has been delivered by a number of politicians and organizations around the world in recent months. Schwab's book, 8-9, COVID-19, The Great Reset, also urges industry leaders and decision-makers to make good use of the pandemic, and not letting the crisis go to waste. Incidentally, the owner of Time magazine and founder of Salesforce, Mark Benioff, is also a board member of the World Economic Forum, 10, so he's clearly familiar with the reset plan. The problem is that while the plan is being sold as a way to, finally, make life fair and equitable for all people, the required sacrifices do not apply to the technocrats running the system. Ultimately, the Great Reset will result in two tiers of people: the technocratic elite, who have all the power and rule over all assets, and the rest of humanity, who have no power, no assets, and no say-so in anything. While technocracy is not a political system but an economic one, in practical terms it does resemble fascism. None of it is being sold under the banner of fascism, of course. Instead, they use financial terms like stakeholder capitalism, described by Forbes magazine 11 as the notion that a firm focuses on meeting the needs of all its stakeholders, customers, employees, partners, the community, and society as a whole. In that same article, Forbes points out that this strategy has already been tried and failed. It failed because balancing conflicting stakeholder claims was near impossible and only led to mass confusion and poor returns. The failure of this strategy is what led big businesses to focus on maximizing shareholder value instead. Now, at a time when big business finds itself under attack for single-mindedly shoveling money to its shareholders and its executives at the expense of customers, employees, the environment, and society as a whole, the answer, they say, is to return to stakeholder capitalism. But if it didn't work before, what makes us think it will work now? Great Reset Plan for Big Food. A November 9, 2020, Article 12 in The Defender, a new media platform by the Children's Health Defense, also points out the problems with the World Economic Forum's Great Reset Plan for the food industry. The architects of the plan claim it will reduce food scarcity, hunger and disease, and even mitigate climate change. But a closer look at the corporations and think tanks the WEF is partnering with to usher in this global transformation suggests that the real motive is tighter corporate control over the food system by means of technological solutions. Aside from the food industry, partners 13 include data mining giants, telecommunications, weapons manufacturers, finance, drug companies, and the biotechnology industry. Looking at that list, it should come as no surprise that the World Economic Forum insists the future of food and public health hinges on genetically modified organisms, GMOs, laboratory-grown protein, drugs, and industrial chemicals. The EAT Forum and the rise of food imperialism. To further the fake food takeover, the World Economic Forum has partnered with the EAT Forum, which will set the political agenda for global food production. The EAT Forum was co-founded by the Wellcome Trust, which in turn was established with the financial help of GlaxoSmithKline. It currently collaborates with nearly 40 city governments across Africa, Europe, Asia, North and South America and Australia, and maintains close relationships with imitation meat companies such as Impossible Foods, which was co-founded by Google, Jeff Bezos and Bill Gates. 14. As noted by The Defender, the ultimate aim is to replace wholesome, nutritious foods with genetically modified lab creations. To this end, it is working with the United Nations Children's Fund, UNICEF, to establish global dietary guidelines and sustainable development initiatives. The Planetary Health Diet 15 developed by it is a diet that is supposed to replace all others. Frederick Leroy, food science and biotechnology professor at University of Brussels, told The Defender. 16. The diet aims to cut the meat and dairy intake of the global population by as much as 90% in some cases and replaces it with lab-made foods, cereals and oil. Vandana Shiva, PhD, has raised harsh critique against the proposed diet, saying it is not about nutrition at all. It's about big business and it's about a corporate takeover of the food system. 17. The Defender adds. 18. According to EAT's own reports, the big adjustments the organization and its corporate partners want to make to the food system are unlikely to be successful if left up to the individual. And the changes they wish to impose on societal eating habits and food require reframing at the systemic level with hard policy interventions that include laws, fiscal measures, subsidies and penalties, trade reconfiguration and other economic and structural measures. But Shiva said this is the wrong approach because all of the science shows that diets should be centered around regional and geographical biodiversity. She explained that EAT's uniform global diet will be produced with Western technology and agricultural chemicals. Forcing this onto sovereign nations by multinational lobbying is what I refer to as food imperialism. The future of food and healthcare. You can get a feel for where the future of food is headed by analyzing the World Economic Forum's Strategic Intelligence Map. 19. As you can see, this top-down approach ties food production to a wide range of sectors, including biotech, the chemical industry, artificial intelligence, the Internet of Things and the digital economy. For more details on Schwab and the World Economic Forum's Strategic Intelligence Plan, see Covert Geopolitics Article 20, Breaking Down the Global Elite's Great Reset Master Plan. If any of this raises your concern, you're probably not going to like what the World Health Economic Forum has in store for healthcare reform either. As detailed on their website. 21. Our current capital-intensive, hospital-centric model is unsustainable and ineffective. The platform for shaping the future of health and healthcare leverages a data-enabled delivery system in virtual care, integrated across the continuum of care from precision prevention to personalized care delivery. Aiding the World Economic Forum in this healthcare transformation are the biggest corporate criminals in the history of the modern world, including Bill Gates, AstraZeneca, 22 Bayer, 23 Johnson & Johnson, 24 Merck, 25 Pfizer, 26 Novartis, 27 and a host of others. 28. These companies have at various times been found guilty of all sorts of crimes that they have paid tens of billions of dollars in fines for. They are also loaded with conflicts of interest in nearly every venture they are involved with. Yet, we're now supposed to believe these companies are going to put aside their profit incentives and fix the whole system? Build back better. As noted in a July 21, 2020, World Economic Forum Article 29, the economic devastation caused by COVID-19 pandemic shutdowns has the potential to hobble global prosperity for generations to come. The answer is to come up with stimulus measures, such as infrastructure development, that can allow countries to move forward. But while it countries are urged to make sure the economic system is built back better. Make no mistake, this catchy slogan is part and parcel of the Great Reset Plan and cannot be separated from it, no matter how altruistic it may sound. As reported by Fox News 30, a radical movement called the Great Reset, embraced by some Democrats, poses a grave threat to liberty and free markets in the United States and around the world. The Great Reset is perhaps the biggest danger to capitalism and individual rights since the collapse of the Soviet Union. It would destroy the current capitalist system and replace it with progressive and modern socialist systems, with a special emphasis placed on eco-socialist policies. Policy ideas offered by Great Reset advocates include government-provided basic income programs, universal health care, massive tax increases, and the Green New Deal. For example, at a campaign event on July 9, Biden said, "We need to end the era of shareholder capitalism," a major part of the Great Reset proposal that would alter how companies are evaluated. Elevating social justice causes and climate change concerns over property rights. The Build Back Better plan comes straight from the Great Reset's playbook. As recently as July 13, the World Economic Forum promoted Building Back Better through green infrastructure programs as part of the Great Reset. Read: Joe Biden's campaign slogan, "Build Back Better," was actually taken from UN's New World Order agenda. Part of the Building Back Better is to shift the financial system over to an all-digital currency system, which in turn is part of the system of social control, as it can easily be used to incentivize desired behaviors and discourage undesired ones. An August 13, 2020, Article 31 on the Federal Reserve website discusses the supposed benefits of a central bank digital currency, CBDC. There's general agreement among experts that most major countries will implement CBDC within the next 2 to 4 years. Many uninformed people believe that these new CBDCs will be very similar to existing cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin, but they would be mistaken. Bitcoin is decentralized and a rational strategy to opt out of the existing central bank-controlled system. While these CBDCs will be centralized and completely controlled by the central banks and will have smart contracts that allow the banks to surveil and control your life. The Great Reset PSYOPs Guide. It goes without saying that to achieve the kind of radical transformation of every part of society has its challenges. No person in their right mind would agree to it if aware of the details of the whole plan. So, to roll this out they had to use psychological manipulation, and fear is the most effective tool there is. As explained by psychiatrist Dr. Peter Breggin, there's an entire school of public health research that focuses on identifying the most effective ways to frighten people into accepting desired public health measures. By adding confusion and uncertainty to the mix, you can bring an individual from fear to anxiety, a state of confusion in which you can no longer think logically. And in this state, you are more easily manipulated. The following graphic illustrates the central role of fear-mongering for the successful rollout of the Great Reset. Social engineering is central to technocratic rule. In closing, keep in mind that technocracy is inherently a technological society run through social engineering. Fear is but one manipulation tool. The focus on science is another. Anytime someone dissents, they're simply accused of being anti-science, and any science that conflicts with the status quo is declared debunked science. The only science that matters is whatever the technocrats deem to be true, no matter how much evidence there is against it. We've seen this firsthand during this pandemic, as Big Tech has censored and banned anything going against the opinions of the World Health Organization, which is just another cog in the technocratic machine. If we allow this censorship to continue, the end result will be nothing short of devastating. We simply must keep pushing for transparency and truth. We must insist on medical freedom, personal liberty, and the right to privacy. One fight in particular that I don't see us being able to evade is the fight against mandatory COVID-19 vaccinations. If we don't take a firm stand against that and fight for the right to make our own choice, there will be no end to the medical tyranny that will follow. As noted in the Covert Geopolitics Article 32. As you might have guessed, the most important anchor of recovery is for a COVID-19 vaccination. The implication is that without a vaccine the world will be unable to return to any sense of normality, particularly in terms of open interaction with your fellow man. You can actually participate in the global efforts to cripple the deep state organized criminal cabal's ability for genocide, while enjoying healthcare freedom at the same time. By boycotting Big Pharma for good. By Dr. Joseph Mercola, author of Fat for Fuel, a revolutionary diet to combat cancer, boost brain power, and increase your energy. From the author, the existing medical establishment is responsible for killing and permanently injuring millions of Americans. But the surging numbers of visitors to Mercola.com since I began the site in 1997, we are now routinely among the top 10 health sites on the internet, convinces me that you, too, are fed up with their deception. You want practical health solutions without the hype, and that's what I offer.
So there you go. That's a pretty good article. All I can say is you've been warned. If we don't stand up to this now, we're all going to be part of this system.